Hello, my name's Louise Bird and I am a registered artist with Arts Care Gofal, Celf. I'm going to be making a little video for you today to show you how to make coloured inks from ingredients you may have at home, so you can get creative without going out to buy anything. I'll introduce you to a few things I've found in my cupboards that I know make lovely ink colours. Here we have beetroot, a staple in everybody's home, turmeric, a curry spice, both the powder and the root. These are oak galls that are found on an oak tree. If you're lucky enough to be able to go out for a walk and find some, they make a lovely ink. This is actually ink made from berries, which I'll be showing you how to do later on. Here we have some black currants, some mint, and this bit of rusty metal, which I will also explain to you about in a minute, and some beautiful daffodils. Here is an array of inks I've already made. Right, the first thing we need to do is to get together what it is we want to make our ink from. I'm going to be using daffodils today, and I have put 2 good handfuls of daffodils into the smallest saucepan I could find. You're only going to be making a small quantity of ink, so really you don't need a big saucepan. On top of that, you tip a glass of water. Now you don't want too much water because otherwise you'll have a colourless runny ink, but too little and your pot is in danger of running dry. So you're going to need to cook this mixture of water and ingredient for about 20 minutes. It needs to be boiling, but on a low boil, and you need to keep your eyes pinned on it in case the water runs low in the pot. If it does, you can always put a bit more water in. It won't affect the quality of your ink. So it's on with the lid and onto the cooker for 20 minutes. My daffodils have been cooking on the stove for 20 minutes and then I've let them cool down completely. It's good to let them cool with the actual material in the pot as it makes the ink a slightly stronger colour. The next thing we have to do with our ink is to strain it. I'm going to do this very carefully. I'm going to use a jar to strain it in, a tea strainer, and I'll have to use another jar to hold the tea strainer in place so we don't have any accidents. Just strain your ink liquid carefully into the jar. Takes a little while for it to come through. Another thing that you can do is to give it a little helping hand with an implement, a spoon, or I've got a palette knife here, that's what was to hand. And you can see the lovely yellow ink coming through into the jar. Leave that to drain a bit. Maybe not do the whole thing on camera here. So what you can do as well, when you finish draining all the liquid into the jar, is give the plant matter a squeeze. You don't really want to drive any of the actual fibres through the tea strainer. But as you can see, there's lots and lots of lovely colour left in the sort of mush that is left of what you boiled. Okay, that's enough of that for now. What we can see now is that we've got this lovely sort of yellowy coloured water. It's a pale wash, the daffodil. I'll show you now on a piece of paper. Can use any kind of brush. Obviously these are watercolours, they'll work best on watercolour paper with a watercolour brush, but this is using what you've got. So I've got a piece of sketch pad here, and as you can see this is a very, very pale yellow wash, which will get darker as you wait. All of these inks have a tendency to change as they dry. The daffodil will stay pale, but it will form more colour as it goes. Another thing you can do with the daffodil is if you make a little crayon out of it, it makes a really nice yellow mark of its own without any liquid or any water. Again, it will get darker as the inks dry. You can do a couple of different layers to make the inks darker, but they will run as any watercolour. So if you're using two colours next to each other, be a little careful, unless you want lovely runny squidgy paintings. I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about some of the other effects you can get. And one of the things I pointed out before was this. This is chopped mint from the garden, and this, to all intents and purposes, should be a rusty nail, but it's just a rusty piece of metal. Again, while you're boiling the mint for 20 minutes, if you add the rusty piece of metal in, you get a wonderfully dirty coloured water. I'm just going to paint some of that there now, because again, it's virtually not visible, but as we talk, you'll see the colour of that emerge, and it makes a lovely, very dark grey, which I can show you here on this butterfly that I've made before. The more iron you add, the darker the grey will be. You can add the iron to any of the ink materials, and it will always give you a type of grey. It's called a saddener. Very interesting thing to do, experiment with there. This is cream of tartar. You can add a pinch of that in, if you have any, to your ink mixture. That will help to make the colour a little brighter and a little more even on the paper. We have an interesting thing here with the turmeric. I've cut the skin off this root turmeric, and that too can be used as a crayon here, which makes quite a good sunny kind of mark. I think I've got a butterfly here to show you how that works out. And if you make an ink from turmeric, it's a very, excuse the berry on the bottom, it's a very pale, sunny, warm yellow wash. Okay, I'll show you a few more of the other colours that I've made with the inks that I have around the table. This is wheatgrass. This is what it looks like. It comes out of a packet. It's a health food product I didn't much care for the taste for. You're supposed to put it in your smoothies. But I made a really rather wonderful greeny yellow ink out of that. That's a really interesting one. Here we have oat gall. This is the oat galls that you find. Crush up. You'll need to boil things like beetroot, oat gall and turmeric root for about 30 minutes, a little bit longer, to get all the colour out of the plant root. These three are berry inks. They are blackberries and red currants. I've got black currants here. Again, you can use a black currant to make a much more definite colour with just the juice. A little bit messy on the fingers, but much more powerful colour there. Some other colours I've got to show you are, this is tea, ordinary black tea. This is hibiscus flower. Hibiscuses are what make your herbal tea bags red. I don't think herbal tea bags themselves, fruit tea bags, work very well, but certainly the hibiscus that's in them does. This is beetroot. You wouldn't think from such a dark coloured root here that you would get such a peachy pale ink, but you do. What else have we got? This one is another yellow. Oh, it's saffron, a beautiful saffron. That's quite an expensive and delicate spice. You can mix and match all of your colours. Some watercolour paper is blue. I've used that as well, and that provides more greeny tones in all the colours. Draw paints, patterns, inks, and just bringing you back to the mint and rust that I painted a couple of minutes ago. That's beginning to develop now, as you can see, into a much darker, greenier colour, which will eventually go quite dark. Right, I think that's about it. I've got a couple of other colours here. Oh yes, this is turmeric as a crayon and turmeric as an ink here. I think I showed you them. No, never mind. The last thing I'll put on the screen before I go is a list here of all the different ingredients that I've had very good luck with making inks. Do experiment. Don't worry if it goes wrong. You only need a little bit of ingredient and water and some time, which I'm sure we all have at the moment. Good luck. Thank you.